Hi everyone, my name is Guneet and we're on back on Canem Network. I have Lata Pada, and Lata is one of the victims' families from the Air India bombing, which happened 40 years ago, and she lost her family in that bomb plane. It's been 40 years. You lost your daughters.
My entire family, my husband, and my two daughters,
How old were your daughters?
18 and 15.
What do you have to tell our audience about that tragedy?
The tragedy was the world's worst act of aviation terrorism, though it was never recognized or accepted at that time. The second tragedy was it was always seen as something that affected brown people, people who had nothing to do with Canada. But the truth was that 289 of them were Canadian citizens, including my whole family. There was such an apathy about accepting it. And the trial, of course, as we know, where the two main accused were acquitted, that was a travesty, complete travesty. It's only after the Justice John Major report, the inquiry, that everything came to light. And it was then finally accepted that this was an act of extremism. And it was something that was also accompanied by many, many failures in the RCMP and the CSIS investigation. It had a lot to do with aviation security, where the two bombs got on the flights without the passengers, and so much else that needed to be corrected in Canada. It is 40 years, and I think that we feel such a tragedy should never happen again. And we should also recognize the violence and the dangers of extremism, which is brewing in Canada, and do everything that we can stop.
It's been 40 years. We know that Canada didn't do the job that was supposed. When I say Canada, say the justice system, the police, the investigation authorities. After the commission report has come out, do you see some sense of comfort that has been provided by the society in itself about this tragedy? Or do you still see that there's so much of that still missing from the mainstream conversation?
Well, a lot is missing because, as the Angus Reid poll stated, most Canadians between the ages of 30 and 35 are unaware of the Air India tragedy. So there's a whole chapter of Canada's history that is missing. If Canadians do not recognize that there was so much to learn from this tragedy, and younger generations are never going to understand, and society doesn't understand, that we've got to do everything to prevent the breeding of extremism, we were destined to suffer the same fate all over again. So I think education is a big part of it, that we need to restore this into our Canadian history. I mean, it's very much in some ways like the Indigenous issues in Canada. I mean, it was ignored for so long. And now, because the government is putting its support behind it, I think there is a new awareness of the atrocities. The same thing needs to happen in this case.
So if you are comfortable, you can talk about a little bit about your daughters and your husband. 137 people under the age of 18 were on that plane.
That's right.
Exactly. So your daughter was young. So give our audience a little bit more insight about your husband and your daughters.
Well, my husband was working as a geologist for the nickel company Inco. We lived in Thompson, Manitoba. Then we were in Indonesia, and then came back to Sudbury, Ontario, where we were when this occurred. He was a very fun-loving person, loved music, and a great father. And we had two daughters. Brinda, the older one, had just graduated from high school and was going to go into an undergrad in science. Arti, the younger one, was just graduating from grade 9. They were both studying and training in dance with me. They were a beautiful blend of being both from the Indian heritage and having been born in Canada. They were very socially conscious and wonderful daughters. So I was already in India 2 weeks earlier and awaiting them to join me from Sudbury when this happened.
It's a tragedy. Is there any message that you would want to give out to the people who are still unaware about this whole issue?
Well, I think as Canadians, we cannot ignore the fact that extremist ideologies are brewing in Canada all over the place from different issues, geopolitical realities. We cannot ignore that. And the moment we recognize that there is this being generated in the younger generation, I think we need to be a lot more proactive in figuring out how these children can be taken away from these environments, and also understand that diasporas from different countries bring their issues to Canada, but Canada is not going to be the home to support that or encourage it in any way. So each one of us has a duty as a citizen to be far more engaged in the system, not choose political leaders who have strong affiliations with any of these extremist groups, and call out an injustice when you see it.
Thank you for talking to us. May the memories of your family be a blessing for everybody here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.